what we have today on the channel is something completely different than what I've been building. First, while it's still a Star Trek model kit, this is not a spaceship or a vehicle. This is more of a diorama. This is the USS Enterprise bridge set. I'm not sure if it originally released with a listed scale, but it's now regarded to be 1/32nd scale. So not only is this different because it's a diorama, it's different than what I've been building because it's a fairly old model kit. I just finished building the newest Star Trek model kit, the 350th scale USS Grissom, and now we're going back to a model kit originally put out in 1975. I believe this would be the fourth oldest Star Trek model kit. The classic spaceship, the Klingon battlecruiser, the shuttlecraft Galileo, and then this were really the four oldest kits. Now this has been re-released a couple of times. It was re-released in 1991 under a 25th anniversary banner, and then it was re-released in 2013, and now in 2022 it's being re-released again by round two. Now I can't speak for whether any changes were made in 1991, but I believe they had improved decals for the 1991 release. But on those old releases, the model kit did not have enough walls to make the full circle around the bridge. It was kind of like the picture here where you didn't have the walls and you could look in on the bridge. Lots of people would buy two model kits and use the walls from one to complete the bridge of the other kit. When round two re-released this in 2013, they included extra wall pieces so you could build the bridge in the round. And with this new release, I know it has updated decals to really add a lot of detail to the bridge. Now, I believe that the box art on this model kit, I believe it's new. I don't believe this is any of the vintage art, but it's done in a very vintage style to match the old boxes from the old model kits. So on the front, we get a lot of pictures of the cast and the crew of the USS Enterprise, the TV show. We get an artist rendition of the bridge. We get kind of a description of the bridge, and kind of it calls out what is where. Okay, so here it's talking about the decals and kind of the different options you'll have. So we've got decals for station controls, the monitors. We get 3 view screen options. That's a classic one. A complete set of station screens. Okay, so this is one of the 3 main bridge decals, the main viewer decals. I'm interested to see what the other ones will be. One's got to be a Klingon battlecruiser, right? Okay. More shots of the cast. All right. All wall sections needed to build the Enterprise bridge. So once again, that's a difference that they introduced in 2013. Choose from 10 characters. I believe you can choose from 10 and build up to 6. Accurate details. Scope parts for Mr. Spock's science station and Mr. Sulu's navigation station. All right, and across the back. So here are the ones you can build. Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Sulu, Ensign Chekhov, Mr. Scott, Lieutenant Uhura. Okay. Over 100 accurate decals. 6 bodies with 10 different heads for multiple characters. And a 12-inch diameter. All right, and here's that decal sheet, and yep, thank goodness, a very nice shot of a Klingon battlecruiser to be on the main view screen. Of course, this TOS alien that was all over the credits, and a greenish planet. But really, lots of nice colors for all of the little consoles, for the lights around the bridge, all sorts of monitors. Yeah, definitely a lot of decals. They look great. And I think this is really what the bridge will need to really make it feel like what we saw on our TVs. What's kind of unique about this build is you do a ton of the painting and all of the decaling before you really start gluing the main parts together. So I've painted everything, I've decaled everything, and the decals were great. I've never had a decal sheet where you kind of work your way across the decals. They're all laid out in order of how they all go on. And they look really nice. So this is the environment panel. You can see you've got the controls, you've got the view screens, you've got the screen up on top, you've got these little lights down below. I have to label each one so I can kind of keep track of which one goes where. But very nice decals. Now, the one problem I had on the build is I had to do a different type of paint than I usually do for the black. My hobby store was still out of Tamiya acrylic, so I had to do a lacquer, and I will not be using a lacquer again. They kind of smell, they peeled. I have some decal slivering, so just not my preferred paint. But I think the results still look good. I think that the decals look great. If they'd been on my normal glossy black, you wouldn't really see some of the artifacting and silvering that you do there. But really, they show up really nicely, even on a real dark paint. So very nice consoles on those. So at this point in the build, we have all the walls painted and decaled. We've got the turbolift decaled. We've got the view screen done. And I definitely chose the Klingon battlecruiser for mine. We have our navigation console, our captain's chair, and railings, stairs, chairs. It's time now just to start gluing all of these together to actually assemble the bridge now that everything is painted and decaled. As so many things are already painted, I can't use a solvent glue, so I'll be using just normal CA super glue to attach most of these parts. Now, I'm not really one to paint figures. I don't really do miniatures or anything. Most of the time, all I ever do is something like this, like a little pilot, usually with like a helmet for Star Wars or Battlestar, and then, you know, put it behind the canopy so nobody ever really sees it. So 100% a challenge for me to kind of have to work on figures that are a little bit larger and figures that are supposed to have faces. If this was not a review video where I feel kind of obligated to show everything, I don't know that I would ever show these to anybody. There's probably 100 different videos out there that show people how to paint miniatures. This is not that video. I did my best. I threw some paint on all of these so that the bridge could be a little dressed up. I think that Spock turned out to be one of the better figures. I think it definitely looks like Spock should. The molding, I mean, not the painting. And my understanding is that most of these heads were redone with a better likeness in 2013. So here is Captain Kirk. I chose to do Spock, Kirk, Uhura, Scotty, McCoy, and Sulu. McCoy was the only one I tried to paint eyes on, and he ends up a little googly-eyed. And you do get 6 bodies, which you see in front of you, 2 standing men, 3 sitting, and 1 seated female. So in addition to these 6, there are also 4 additional heads included. Now this one is Chekhov, and these 3 are unnamed on the instructions. However, there has been some speculation that perhaps these heads are characters from the episode The Galileo 7, and will we see these heads or these figures released as part of the interior set that's coming out for the 32nd scale Galileo shuttlecraft? Possibly, but definitely it seems like those could be the characters from that episode. All right, so this is my build-up of the Enterprise Bridge set, the 2022 edition, which, just like the release in 2013, gives you all the walls, so you can build the entire round bridge. And of course, I have mine built in pieces for different display options. Let's go ahead and put in the navigation console and the captain's chair. Of course, here is Captain Kirk. Let's go ahead and put Scotty at the engineering section. McCoy will be coming in from the turbo lift. Lieutenant Uhura, we will put her back here by communications. Here's Sulu. Put him at the helm. And let's put Spock kind of walking over here to look at the view screen. I think the appeal of this set really is that you're building a vintage Star Trek kit. I was wrong a little bit earlier when I said it was the 4th oldest. It looks like this came out around the same time as 2 other Star Trek kits. One was the Exploration set. It was like a tricorder and a phaser and a communicator that all were in about 3/4 scale. There was also a Mr. Spock kit that came out at the same time, where Spock was fighting a snake. So some other vintage kits out here, but really it's a fun piece of Star Trek modeling history to kind of work on this kit that you know people have been building for over 40 years. Wonderful advancements in the kit with these new decals that let you do all of the consoles and view screens. And as bad as I am at painting figures, the sculpting on these is really nice and much better than what I've seen of the old vintage kits. So I know there's a ton of add-ons for this model kit. A ton of replacements, a ton of ways to light it, but I think it really looks good just with an average out-of-the-box build. Oddly enough, the one thing that I would upgrade if I was going to do adjustments, and this is going to sound crazy, but I would upgrade the chairs. Those chairs are just oddly classic, and these are very simple. So that's the one thing I would upgrade if I was going to do any aftermarket pieces for this kit. I don't really think it warrants being lit. I think the decals for the consoles and view screens do a good enough job that I don't really need those lit up. But overall, it was a very nice build. It is a vintage kit, so you'll see some gaps and some other problems, but I think it builds up pretty nice. As always, thank you guys for watching the video. Thank you for following my builds. Thank you to Round 2 and AMT for letting me look at this review copy before it comes out. Thank you guys very much. We'll be back soon.